Nellie smiled and petted him. She really was an angel of mercy sometimes. You're right, Toby. One can never tell how one's fortunes are going to change, so you should always be on the lookout for the next opportunity, right? Exactly, ma'am. Toby's cheerful grin was interrupted by a jaw-cracking yawn. Oh, ma'am, I'm rather tired. Is it really all right with you if I sleep out here like this? Nothing would make me happier than to see you comfortable, dear, Nellie assured him, tripping her fingers down his arms. Are you set to fall asleep right away, dear, or do you think a tot of gin might help? We've got a busy day tomorrow, and I'll need you well rested. She trailed off, watching the greedy light fill his eager eyes. Ooh, ma'am, you are an angel, he cried. She laughed darkly and grabbed his hand, tugging him towards the dark hall to her room. He sat meekly on the edge of the bed when she shoved him down, his eyes following her as she went to the drawers for the liquor. She'd have to ply him gently and carefully, she realized. It wouldn't do any good for him to drink himself stupid. All of her plans would be ruined. Nellie carefully poured out 2 thumbs, setting the bottle on the bibble on the side of the table. I'm feeling a bit wound up myself, she murmured as she sank onto the mattress next to him. Toby'd already slugged his drink and was eyeing the bottle eagerly, though he didn't dare to ask for more just yet. She smiled graciously and poured him another drink carefully, still sipping at her own. Dear Toby, she cooed softly, stroking the back of her hand along his arm again. You still look a little peaked. Are you still too warm? Flushed with alcohol, Toby half shook his head, no, half nodding. A bit, ma'am, he admitted, and Nellie felt her face split in a feral grin. It's those woolen trousers, boy. They're all fine for running around the streets in, but I'm a civilized lady, and I can't sleep in something so heavy. Toby was scandalized, as much as he could be, half listing drunk and tottering to his feet. Oh, no, ma'am, I just couldn't. You're a lady. He seemed to be trying to remind her. Come now, lad, you've got nothing I've never seen before, she mocked cheerfully, tugging at the laces of his trousers. I'm not bashful. Toby's eyes deepened as he hesitated, hands fisted in the waistband. I couldn't. It wouldn't be right, ma'am. What would people think? Then you just won't tell them, Toby, she said simply, slowly for his benefit. I don't mind. It can be our secret. Ma'am, he protested weakly, grip already slipping. The heavy fabric pulled at his ankles, revealing the ill-fitting bottom of an old union shirt. Toby nervously covered himself. The fabric was stretched thin and old and nearly transparent. You're so shy, she crooned, coaxing him back to sit next to her on the bed. You act like you're not covered up at all. Ma'am, such a fine young lad, she murmured, ignoring him. She raked her nails from knee to thigh, smiling sharply. Such a fine young lad. I can't imagine how many sluts with bastards will have to turn away in a few years. None, Toby cried indignantly. I would never. Never? Nellie's voice was wry. Never, Toby vowed. She wanted to tell him he changed his mind later. They all did. Even Albert's had a trollop or two show up, bouncing babes on their knees and demanding payment, back before the gout had got him. But she clucked her tongue and gently slipped her hand around his cock instead. Even if Toby didn't change his mind, this part would change it for him. She shushed against his shoulder, wrapping arms like steel bands around his chest as he tried to squirm away. Shh, shh. She puffed into his ear, stroking along the tight fabric to his waist. It'll help you sleep, lad. She sighed sweetly, relishing the feel of him in her hand. Toby made a strangled cry, sagging against her as she slipped a hand inside his pants. He was hot, sweaty, barely a handful, and she groaned softly, whimpering at the feeling. Oh, Toby, she whispered, clutching at his thigh with another hand as she worked him. Good lad, good lad. When he seized, body tensed and cock pumping into her hand, his breathy "oh" sounded like a sob. She squeezed him gently and pulled her hand out, wiping it on his pants. She maneuvered him around, tugging the sweaty boy to lay atop her on the bed. He shivered, nuzzling into her neck and pressing against her side. "Damnation," she muttered, his soft snores loud in her ear. "Just like a man." I have to admit one thing. This story was very well written. Does that mean I like it? No. You want to know why I don't like it? Because it's wrong! Mrs. Lovett pretty much raped Toby in this story. That's what she did. She raped him. And I read some of the reviews for this story, and someone said, "Oh, I thought she was very in character." I'm sorry, when I watched the Sweeney Todd movie, I did not think once that she wanted to shag Toby. She was like a motherly figure to him. She didn't want to do this to him. And why did she want to do this to him? Was it because she was desperate for action? It wasn't like she was actually sleeping with him. It was more like she was jerking him off. I don't know. It was just like she was doing this because she wanted to be entertained. I don't know. I mean, this story was just wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong on so many levels. You know what? I kind of think this story is even worse than Late. You know, with the concept. I mean, Late was a bad story itself, but this, I don't know if I should say this is a bad story because it was well written. I'm kind of torn because it was well written and stuff, and I didn't really see many errors, but the concept itself is just dark. It's disturbing. The story literally disturbed me when I read it. I mean, it's a good story, but the concept itself is, I don't know, it's just wrong. And I mean, maybe if this was kind of hinted in the movie, I would have a better acceptance of it, but, you know, I didn't see this at all in the movie, and this is why it kind of boggles my mind that someone actually said that this story was in character for the characters. For me, no. No. Not for Mrs. Lovett, anyway. I don't think she would ever do this to Toby. She saw him as her child. And I'm sorry, mothers do not rape their children. So let's read the review I gave this story. This is what I wrote. I will admit that this was written good, but I do not agree with stories that involve children and adults having sexual intercourse. You'll probably claim that she didn't really have sex with him, but it's all the same. It's wrong, and to me it makes no sense that Mrs. Lovett would do this. Some other reviewers said that she was in character, but I beg to differ. Well, keep on writing stories because I do think you are a good writer. And I do think this person is a good writer. I really do. I mean, it's not like with Pretty Moppet and her story Late where, you know, that had, I don't know. If I recall correctly, that story had absolutely no paragraph spacing. And the characters were so out of character in this one. But in this story, it was well written. That's why it's hard for me, I don't know. I mean, I want to say it's an awful story, but I can't because, you know, it was well written. It's kind of tearing me up like the story Red, that Mario fanfic, where Mario kills his brother. I didn't like that story, but I couldn't say it was a bad story because it was well written. I mean, this is a good story, just not my cup of tea. Well, I'm the FanFic Critic. I read it, you listen. And, I really need to come up with more catchphrases. Seriously, I mean, it's hard for me to come up with another one every single time. So I'm just going to leave now. See you later. So long, farewell, I'm going to the bathroom.